Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to another top 3 video where every week I choose a topic and show you my 3 favorite builds of it. Today's theme is the tanky builds, and if you wanna try any of those you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. And if this video helps you, please leave a thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you very much and let's get into it! Let's start with this classic minion build that is like having fireworks on your screen. The Mage Skeletons Guardian with the Templar class. I'm sure you all remember that to transform our regular skeletons into mage ones, we used to need a unique jewel called Dead Reckoning. Well, that's changed because of the new Transfigure gems. Now, we have the Summon Skeletons of Mages gem that naturally summon mage skeletons without the need of any mandatory unique item and for a much lower price. This means that mage skeletons become an even better starter than before. To list the pros of this build, I would start with survivability. With the Guardian Ascendancy, you get almost 75% chance to block attacks and spells, a huge life regeneration, and the new Sentinel of Radiance that takes 20% of the damage for you. All of that combined with the fact that this is a minion build that is very safe to play, because you stay behind your minions and they can kill enemies from a big distance. Also, with the new Elemental Relic, you and your minions get 3 damage auras totally for free, resulting in a great boss damage. Now, to list the cons, I will start saying that Mage Skeletons don't move, they feel more like a totem build. For that reason, you need to keep resummoning them while clearing maps. The Guardian Ascendance also doesn't get a speed buff from Flash offering like the Necromancer, so it's a little bit slower. Above all, when comparing to the Necromancer, this version also doesn't get that awesome 30% to all elemental resistance for you and your minions. This might cause your zombies and specters to die from elemental damage if you don't look for minion resistance on your rare gear. As for budget, this build is cheaper than ever. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 50 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 120 chaos, and for easily completing our atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. For clear speed, I'll give it 8 out of 10. You have many skeletons firing many projectiles at a high cast speed rate. I took 2 points out because the mage skeletons don't move and you need to keep resummoning them, and also because the Guardian does not get the Flash offering speed buff like the Necromancer. The boss damage is also amazing and deserves 9 out of 10. With the new returning projectile support gem, 100% of projectiles will hit enemies twice, but since it's not as powerful as the nerfed anomalous faster projectiles, I took 1 point out. For the survivability, I'll give it 10 out of 10. This build has a big load of defensive layers such as high armor, 75% chance to block attacks and spells, a minion that takes 20% of the damage for you, and since it's a minion build, you are far from danger all the time. Next, we have the super safe explosive arrow champion with the Duelist class. This build uses the explosive arrow skill on ballistas to deliver huge ignites that proliferate on your enemies. To list the pros, I would start with how easy this build is to put together. You only need 1 mandatory unique item and not many other specific rare items. This one is perfect for starting a new league. This build is also very safe to play because with a totem play style, you just need to wait behind while they turn your enemies into ash. Now, to list the cons, I would start saying that this build uses fire damage over time. This means that your boss damage will need a lot of investment to be amazing. But don't worry too much about it. You can easily kill map bosses with a low budget. This build is only not recommended for uber boss farming. As for budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 55 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. You only need 1 mandatory unique item for this build, the Diadian Dawn Belt, which causes your ignites to deal damage a lot faster. This is great for killing bosses. For clear speed, this build gets 8 out of 10. I took 2 points out because of this delay that explosive arrow has before exploding and proliferating your ignites. This might feel a little bit clunky, but as you can see, the clear speed is great to farm red maps. The boss damage also gets 8 out of 10. As mentioned before, fire damage over time builds need to invest many divine orbs to have a big single target damage, but this one, even on a low budget, will be able to farm red map bosses without any issue. For this survivability, I'll give it 10 out of 10. This is because we are talking about a totem build where you just need to summon them and wait behind while they destroy and tank everything for you. You just need to mind your position. And above all of that, this build also counts with high armor, evasion and spell suppression. Finally, we have an amazingly strong endgame build, the Poison Raging Spirit's Guardian with the Templar class. This build takes advantage of the high number of Raging Spirits you can summon to stack an absurd amount of poison on our enemies. Originally, I was trying to build it as a Necromancer, but with the Guardian, we lose just a little bit of damage but get almost 3 times more survivability. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its boss damage. Once the build is complete, you are going to kill even the biggest bosses in just a few seconds. The survivability is also amazing, since we can have all the defensive layers of a Guardian on a minion build that is already very safe to play. Now to list the cons, I'll start saying that this build isn't for everyone. You need a lot of currency to put it together. Another issue is that Raging Spirits have a short duration and you have to often stop to resummon them. As for budget, this build will need at least 10 Divine Orbs to put together. As I said, it's an expensive one. You need 4 mandatory unique items for this build. The first one is the United in Dream Sword that grants the Envy Aura for a big amount of chaos damage to our minions. It also grants them 60% chance to poison on hit. We also need the Darkness in Front Belt that has 2 Abyss dual sockets for us to achieve a 100% chance to poison on our minions. Next, we need a Covenant Armor that grants our Raging Spirits a level 29 aided chaos damage support. This means a lot more chaos damage. Finally, we also need the Ancient Skull that grants a huge damage and attack speed boost to our minions. For clear speed, I'll give this one 9 out of 10. Even though we have many fast minions that destroy everything in seconds, they have a short duration and need to be resummoned all the time. That's why I took 1 point out. The boss damage totally deserves 10 out of 10. You easily end up with over 30 million DPS that is more than enough to decimate every boss in the game. For the survivability, this one is surely a 10 out of 10. As a minion build, you already stay far from danger, but with this one, you also count with many defensive layers from the Guardian Ascendance that grants this build the amazing amount of 250,000 effective HP. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think about those tanky builds? Please take a second to tell me your thoughts in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day and don't forget to keep building!